Welcome to the best 5. Throughout history, the human mind has conjured the most brutal punishments. Let's go. Number 5. The leather sack. This exclusive punishment was reserved for those guilty of the ultimate betrayal, murdering a family member. Originating in 2nd century Rome, it later found use in 18th century Germany. The horror begins with the convicted murderer being placed inside a thick leather bag. But to ensure the condemned was not alone, they would add a dog, a rooster, a viper, and a monkey into the bag as well. These innocent creatures were thrown into this grim fate alongside the murderer. Once all the animals were inside, the bag was sewn shut, creating an almost airtight seal. One might think that being trapped in a bag with frenzied animals would be punishment enough. But this was only the beginning of their torment. With the bag sealed shut, it was then tossed into the ocean. The condemned, along with their unwilling companions, would drown in the dark, cold depths. Number 4. The rat bowl and tube, back 1568, during the 80 Years' War. A Dutch leader named Drie Suij devised a horrific method of torture. His technique was as simple as it was brutal. A rat would be placed inside a clay bowl, which was then turned upside down on the prisoner's stomach, chest, face, or groin. The back of the bowl would be heated with a torch or hot coals, sending the rat into a frenzied panic. Desperate to escape the heat, the rat's only option was to burrow into the human flesh beneath it. It would chew and tear through whatever was in its path, causing unimaginable pain and suffering. Eventually, the rat would find its way out, but the prisoner would not survive this gruesome ordeal. This method was shrouded in secrecy and used under the brutal regime of dictator Augusto Pinochet from 1976 to 1983. They called it the rectoscope. The mere mention of its name strikes fear into the hearts of those who know its history. A tube would be placed at the prisoner's back door, and a rat would be inserted inside. The rat, driven by instinct, would begin to burrow its way into the prisoner. These twisted torturers expected the prisoners to answer questions while enduring this excruciating torment. Nobody knows exactly how many people died from this appalling method, but countless individuals went missing during Pinochet's reign. Their fates remain a grim mystery. Number 3. Gibbeting human cages. In the early 1900s, Afghanistan was one of the last known places to use this macabre form of punishment. It came to public attention in 1921 when National Geographic published this chilling image. But gibbeting wasn't confined to far-off lands. In the United States during the 17th and 18th centuries, this practice was used sporadically. Boston, Massachusetts, was one such place where pirates were hung at the harbor, their bodies left to serve as a grim warning to approaching sailors. Now, let's journey to England, where gibbeting was most notoriously employed. Traitors, murderers, pirates, and thieves all met their end in these iron cages. After the Murder Act of 1752, it was decreed that convicted murderers must be put to death either by public dissection or by gibbeting. The gibbet was a cage, shaped tightly to the human form, restricting any movement. These cages were hung 30 feet or more above the ground, often along busy roads or near water sources to ensure maximum visibility. For the living, gibbeting was more than a deterrent. It was a nightmare. Imagine fetching water and hearing the desperate pleas of a dying man begging for a sip. The bodies of the condemned would remain in these cages long after death, left to rot for years. Locals complained of the unbearable stench of death, so pungent it kept them awake at night. Some remains were reportedly left for over 20 years before a government official finally remembered to clean them out. Over 134 souls met their end in these ghastly cages. Their suffering echoed through the ages, a dark chapter in the book of human history. Number 2. Scaphism. We must first witness its initial stage, the boat of torture. The condemned criminal would be tightly bound and placed inside a small wooden boat. Their arms and legs, protruding through holes in the vessel, rendered them immobile, their fate sealed. The ancient Persians devised a diabolical plan to prolong the agony. The prisoner would be force-fed copious amounts of honey and milk, swelling their stomachs. But this was no indulgence. The purpose was to induce extreme diarrhea, a crucial element in intensifying the torment that awaited. Covered in a sickly sweet mixture, the prisoner would be exposed to the unforgiving sun. The scorching rays, once a mere discomfort, now became the least of their worries. The psychological impact of the impending horror would start to take hold. The combination of honey and milk acted as a potent attractant, drawing creatures from all corners. Insects, rodents, wasps, bees, and flies would swarm the helpless victim, their hunger awakened by the scent of sweet nourishment. The prisoner's body became a battleground for survival as they endured relentless attacks throughout the night. As each day dawned, the prisoner's torment continued. Another meal of honey and milk, another dousing of the sickening mixture upon their body. The cycle would repeat itself day after day as the Persian authorities sought to prolong the suffering for as long as possible. The accounts of those who witnessed the horrors of Scaphism are truly chilling. One writer, John Sarris, recounted the story of a man who endured the punishment for an excruciating 17 days. His face ravaged by wasp stings, flesh rotting away, infested with parasites and worms. The image haunted Sarris, leaving an indelible mark on his psyche. The atrocities of Scaphism stand as a testament to the depths of human cruelty. The ancient Persian Empire's thirst for retribution and the cultural influences that shaped their mindset birthed this sadistic form of punishment. Number 1. The oubliette, a sinister chamber designed to erase the very essence of its captives, stood as a monument to human cruelty. This chapter explores the origins and design of these macabre dungeons, delves into the horrifying experiences of those imprisoned within, and uncovers the haunting discoveries made centuries later. Originating from the French word oublier, meaning to forget, the oubliette emerged as a form of imprisonment during the 12th century, peaking in popularity in subsequent centuries. Crafted deep within castles and towers, these chambers were meticulously designed with entrances that were intentionally narrow and concealed, rendering escape or communication virtually impossible. Once entrapped within, prisoners faced a living nightmare devoid of light, air, and any trace of comfort. Deprivation and despair became their constant companions as days stretched into weeks, then months, with the relentless toll of their confinement taking its toll. The darkness enveloped them, the air grew stale, and the silence became an oppressive weight upon their spirits. The oubliette was an unforgiving adversary, systematically erasing hope and breaking the will of those trapped within its suffocating embrace. Within its depths, vermin and decay added to the horrors that plagued its inhabitants. Rats, drawn by the scent of death and decay, scurried freely across the cold stone floors, feeding on the remains of those who had come before. The chamber became a breeding ground for filth, the pungent stench of rot mingling with the fear and desperation that permeated the air. Centuries later, when these dungeons were unearthed, the echoes of despair resonated through time. Archaeologists and historians discovered chilling evidence of the horrors that unfolded within. The floors were strewn with the skeletal remains of countless souls, each bone a haunting testament to the suffering endured in the name of power and control. Deep within Leap Castle in Ireland, a hidden wall revealed a vast oubliette, its depths filled with an unimaginable number of skeletons. The bones, long forgotten, now bore witness to the atrocities committed in the darkest recesses of history.